So you were delighted to be joined by Shamrock Rovers strength and conditioning coach Darren Dillon. Darren, how are you this evening?
Yeah, I'm great, Macdara. Thanks very much. Thanks for having me on.
Good. Yeah. Well, we wanted to. There's lots of pictures this week of the players back in training. They're out in the cold with the hats on and all the layers on, but they've been in the gym obviously with you over the last few weeks. But they were given a bit of time off, I suppose, to recuperate after the FAI Cup final. Was there anything they needed to do before they came back into the gym kind of in the new year?
Yeah, so obviously the season went on a lot longer than it would normally do due to COVID and obviously being involved in the cup final and whatever else. So it just basically meant that our time off was slightly reduced, but they did get to have probably 3 to 4 weeks off, and most of the lads, we did suggest most of the lads had a complete shutdown, as in not to work at all. But then there was other lads that we wanted to get some work into, so we did send out specific programs based on some targets that we had set out with the lads, and we returned into the gym environment in Roadstone. We weren't actually allowed to go into Kickstart this year due to the COVID restrictions, but we're lucky enough to have the facility up in Roadstone that we could do it outdoors. So we started that, I think 3 weeks ago. Would have been 4 weeks ago we started that. So we've managed to get probably the guts of 4 weeks of specific work into them. And on top of that, then the lads who were working in the off season, like I said, they probably had another 4 weeks of work on top of what we've just done with them. So they're in good shape, and it was great to see everybody back, and obviously to welcome on board the new boys as well. So it's been good.
They were probably dying to get a kick of a football then this week after 4 weeks, then doing that in the normally, yeah, they're in your gym, but out in Roadstone it is a bit different doing it outdoors then.
Yeah, it's old school, and but it was really good, to be fair. When we were planning it, we had to plan for both eventualities. Really, I suppose we're lucky in the sense that we have Kickstart down the road from Roadstone, and over the last few years we've been lucky to get 5 or 6 weeks of strength training in Kickstart. But this year, when we had to spin and put it outdoors, obviously you're vulnerable to the weather, but we've been blessed, really. I know it was bad today, but yeah, you're right. Again, 3 weeks of gym work, or whether that's indoors or outdoors, the lads are just dying to get the ball at their feet. So we started our first full day of our first official day of preseason on the pitch today. So we had a good day on the pitch today with them, you know.
So supporters would see the players wear the GPS tracking unit in training, and that matches the back of the neck. What kind of data are you taking on board? It must be a huge amount of information you're probably getting in, and I know you used it last year, so you're probably able to maybe just compare how the players have progressed in the year, or if there's anything maybe a bit off, it can maybe highlight that there might be an issue that they need to have a look at.
Yeah, we're in our second season of using it, and I think when the manager was speaking initially about bringing it in, we didn't want to get bogged down in tons of information, because there is a phenomenal amount of information that comes from the GPS, and other metrics that we can measure too. But the GPS one, we just wanted to pick, 5 or 6 key performance indicators, and tune into those, and just use them to help the lads, I suppose, get the best out of themselves, individually and then collectively as a team. So, I suppose the first year of using a system like that, you're literally just grabbing info. You're just gathering info, you're gathering baseline information, and learning, I suppose, what to expect over the course of a training week. And where that really works well for us this year is that we now have the history, and we now have gathered a sufficient amount of information to actually plan our sessions off the readings that we're getting from the GPS. So that can be based on distance, it can be based on the amount of times they change direction, I suppose explosive movements, sprints, accelerations, decelerations, and all of this stuff becomes really important then when you're planning sessions from a tactical and technical point of view, but also from a physical point of view, which is my and the thing. So as a group in the staff room, we have great conversations about, you know, numbers that the GPS throw up, you know, about, you know, it's not always a case of can we get more out of a player. You're right in what you're saying earlier on, about there are certain times when we need to rein a player in. A player might, and I know it sounds crazy, but there are times where players can be working too hard, and you know, which is great from a mentality point of view. But in order for us to train smart and to manage their load and to look after them, especially, you know, we don't want people breaking down on day one in preseason or any day really. But it's become a really, really valuable tool, and we're lucky to have it. Yeah, it's really useful.
And one of the other things I know you do, the players come in the morning, they're weighed, I suppose more. It's make sure that they're hydrated. It's not in terms of, oh no, you got an extra 2 kilos. There's not much of pick on any of those players. And then I know there's a hamstring kind of test you guys do as well, because I think that's one of the critical injuries you're trying to minimize for the players in the squad.
Yeah, again, it's you know, we're really in a good place. I feel personally we're really in a good place with the group that we have, and I know it's taken a couple of years for the manager to kind of get everything in place that he, to be fair, would have spoke about early on. You know, my early days coming in with the club, you know, there were targets that the club, that the manager wanted to hit in terms of the type of player we wanted to have, and obviously the way we wanted to play. But the hamstring test and the ability to test hamstring strength was a really big addition for us last year as well as the GPS. And there are certain sort of procedures that are now just part of our ethos in the morning when we come in. And yes, checking in for body weight is one, and checking the hamstring strength, firing up your GPS, making sure you're kitted out with it, and some other sort of activation and mobilization strategies that we have, that we tend to revisit and early on in pre-season, just to drive it home that, again, it's not a matter of us not feeling like players are doing enough to look after themselves. It's just that we're always trying to seek out ways of maybe improving things even by 1 or 2%. And I think the area of you know, activation, preparation, recovery, all of those areas are really important key areas where we can always gain a couple of percent of improvement, if that makes sense. So yeah, that's all really good. We're really lucky to have some of the stuff that we can tap into for testing.
And looking back on last season, there was 2 pre-seasons you almost did. There was the one at the start of the year, there was the long break when there was no football during the middle of the year, and then football got back, thankfully. Did that make anything different for you and the squad this year in terms of this pre-season? Did that add any extra load, or was it just they got 2 breaks, the one in the mid-season and the one at the end of the season, and you just go again?
Yeah, it's a good question. I suppose time will only tell on that one. You know, effectively by the time we get to the summer this year, we will have had 3 pre-seasons in the space of a 12-month period, really, maybe a little bit more than a 12-month period. And I know from talking to the lads that it is the most difficult training phase of the season is pre-season, because they just work harder than they normally would work. You couldn't work as hard during the season as you do during pre-season. So to go through that twice in the one season was unique, and now to be starting off our 3rd one within that same 12-month period, because don't forget, this time last year we were still quite unaware of COVID. We were definitely unaware of what was coming, and we were just finishing pre-season and ready to kick off the season for real maybe next week, I think we would have been. So we've had obviously the lockdowns and the stuff that we've had to deal with, which is fine. Everybody's in the same boat. I think for us this time around, we've got to just, you know, revert back to the information that we gathered last year on what worked really well for us. And not just last year, to be fair, we haven't changed a huge amount from day one. Maybe we've got a little bit smarter due to the information that we can gain from the new technology that we've brought in. But other than that, it hasn't necessarily changed our philosophy or our approach to how we want to work and and how we want to progress through pre-season, as in from a periodization point of view. And so yeah, time will tell. You know, hopefully it just makes us better, and it doesn't give up any sort of negative effects. But we'll see.
Just a few quick ones for you. I know there's a lot of measurements you do of the players. So if I asked who's got the best standing jump, what player springs out to mind?
I know Big Al is keen, sort of takes a keen interest in what happens during those jump tests. Obviously this pre-season we haven't been able to do it because we haven't been able to come into the gym. But Pico's always scored well. Pico scores well in pretty much everything. Aaron Green, Ronan, to be fair, is decent in that regard. But definitely Big Al would be right up there, and he would definitely take a keen interest in those numbers there. So yeah, I'll leave it at those couple of bodies. I'm sure I'm missing out on somebody.
Who's quickest across the penalty area if they're going from the goal line out to the edge of the area? Who stands out?
Quickest off the mark.
Yeah.
Aaron Green would be quite quick off the mark. Yeah, obviously we're not going to talk about Aaron Mack, and we're not going to talk about Jack, but yeah, Aaron Green would be probably up there as probably the quickest off the mark. Neil Ferrugia as well would be quite quick off the mark, and then over maybe once we get outside the box, it sort of build up a little bit, Pico would just kind of catch them all, I think, you know.
And so, yeah. Maybe is there any player you have to rein in a little bit? They really like getting in the gym, and maybe we have to hold them back a little bit, that they're maybe a bit too eager.
Yeah, I never like reining them in, to be honest, because it's probably taking a little bit of time to get them to the point where they actually enjoy it. But no, I mean, I suppose our centre backs are mad for the gym. So obviously, again, just mentioned Pico, Lee. Scalesy is mad for the gym too, really likes to get in and do a bit with the lads. If I'm talking about this pre-season so far, you're definitely looking at the skip again, Ronan. Something's put a bee up his bonnet now at this point, because he needs watching now. All right, he wants to do a lot more in the gym, you know. Super.
No, that sounds really good. It's good to hear they're as enthusiastic after you've had them doing all that for the last 4 weeks. But they're out enjoying the football now, and the hard work will continue. But it sounds like the hard work has been put in over the last 4 weeks, Darren. Anyway.
Yeah, they've been excellent, Macdara, to be fair. And we as I said, we started on the pitch this morning, and it was a nice change for them. And they did have a bit of testing again this morning and got going. But to have, like I said, the ability to, even though we were restricted from being indoors, you know, as in going into kickstart, and we could manage the numbers. We had planned to split them into a couple of different groups, but to be able to do that, split them into a couple of different groups in Roadstone, and hit everything that we wanted to hit over the last 4 weeks has been great for us, and will stand us in good stead, and gives us that really good base from a strength perspective. As we now flip onto the pitch, and the work doesn't stop there either. To be fair, we still have scheduled a couple of gym sessions into the week, even though we're going hell for leather on the pitch now, you know.
Great, Darren. Listen, thanks a million for talking us through that. Really appreciate it, and we'll get back to the quiz now. We'll see how we're getting on. So thanks a million.
No problem at all.